My JOOLA Pro IV finally court crushed. How long did it last and what was it like playing with it? Today we're gonna make a video talking about that. Hey there guys, welcome back to Pickleball Paddle Reviews. Today we will be talking about the life of my JOOLA Pro IV Perseus. It was definitely one of my favorite paddles for the time that I was able to play with it. I was actually going to make a 100-hour review of the JOOLA Perseus, but I ended up having so much fun playing with the paddle that I went way over that time and I took way too long to make this video, honestly. So today in this video, we'll break down how playing with the Pro 4 was after the first 10 hours, how the paddle felt as it's aged, lessons that I learned from playing with the paddle, how the paddle felt towards the end of its life and how it played, and finally, my experience with JOOLA warranty and replacement. So what was it like playing with the JOOLA Pro 4 after the first 10 hours? I would say the first 10 to 150 hours were actually very, very good. The paddle was very reliable, very powerful, and all of the aspects that I talked about, which I liked about the paddle, felt like they were just getting better even. As my body got used to hitting with the paddle and I was getting used to how much power was coming out of my hits, I adjusted my play style to match that and it just felt really good. The main thing that I really liked about this Perseus that held true for the whole 150 hours is that you get considerably good touch with the paddle. I would say this paddle ranks one of the best in terms of reliability for a power paddle because you can really get good dinks and drops and resets in with the paddle while also getting very powerful poppy shots at the net and for drives. Now this paddle does feel heavy because of its slightly higher swing weight, so it's not always the best for flicks and that kind of motion. So that did feel more lacking with the Pro 4, but you could still perform a very powerful flick with the paddle. So I never felt like it was lacking dramatically in any category. Now, towards the end of its life, which was closer to the 200 to 250 hour mark, was when I started noticing some issues. It still hit drives and serves and all of those standing shots quite well. But when you get to your dinks and your resets and lobs, especially lobs, it was harder to gauge how hard those were gonna go. Sometimes I would be barely tapping in a lob and it would go straight up and out. And I was kind of surprised how little I had to do to lob so much. Anyway, those were definitely very, very inconsistent, and also some of the resets were getting a little harder to do. I also noticed towards the very, very end of its life that many of the serves and drives that I was used to getting in were starting to just fly out. And this was closer to when it was probably already very core crushed and it was launching balls just out of bounds all the time on my serves. I had to really adjust the power level of my serve after that. So playing with the paddle, I did get to learn some new things. I learned how to do a very wide angle serve. Now, if you do remember from the previous video, I talked about how I was training serves with this. I would just hit the ball as hard as I wanted and the ball would mostly stay in. And so I took a 2-week vacation to Korea playing no pickleball, and when I came back, my arm was so fresh that it felt really good to hit hard balls with the Perseus. So I ended up just smashing every ball for a few days, and then around like that first or second day, I had noticed that the serves just felt really fast. So I ended up trying to shoot for a better angle, and you know, the best angle you could possibly go for is that super wide out angle towards the middle and backside of the court, though it is very risky to hit a ball back there. I still remember the first one that I hit where my opponent stood there because it was going so fast and wide that they just didn't know how to react to the ball. They just stood there as it went in and they just looked over at me, and I remember their partner looked over at me and my partner looked over at me, and we all were like, oh, what the heck was that? And so I just kept doing it that day, and yeah, I knew that I had something that was interesting. So my serves definitely were going crazy for the first, I want to say, 100 to 150 hours of this paddle's life, because it was able to not only generate the power and speed needed to do that serve, but also keep the ball in at such a sharp angle. And yeah, I still remember after doing that serve, I went to a 4-0 plus open play at Pickler, and even those players there would sometimes be caught off guard by that serve. They would just look over at the ball as there was just no time to really get to that ball. So that was very cool. Another thing that I learned with this paddle was the roll drive. Now, if you've never tried to drive like you're doing a roll, it's just you're finishing your drive with the paddle on the same side of your body that you started from. This makes the ball get a lot more topspin, so it stays relatively low, and it might not carry as far to the back of the court, but you're actually just trying to aim at your opponent when they're coming up at mid-court towards their feet. And yeah, this was very effective on the Perseus. I found that the pop gave it enough power where you could kind of just tap the ball and it would carry the ball over the net just enough so that it kind of got to mid-court, and it was so low that many times it was just hard for people not to pop it up. And so yeah, those were like the two main shots I really learned from this Perseus, and it's really helped my game quite a bit. So yeah, I would say that the Perseus is really good for learning certain shots, and those were two that I really benefited from. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about the end of life for the Perseus Pro 4. For me, what was starting to happen was all of those serves that I was talking about, I couldn't even try them, because once I would hit that angle, the ball was flying out by about a foot or two. So if I was aiming for that really sharp angle, I noticed the ball was not landing where it was. Now, this was because of two things, I think, and that was the spin was no longer as aggressive on the ball, and also it felt like the ball came off a little faster than it should. So even if I was hitting hard enough, it was going too far, and the ball was not spinning enough to push it back into the court. Now, this was very disappointing for me, and it took me quite an adjustment. I just had to completely stop doing that serve because of that. Just because it was no longer consistent and it was not playable. I really noticed that the core crushing was bad around like the 190 to 200 hour mark, because now there were also some dead spots, it felt like, on the paddle, where when I hit certain balls, it felt like there would be a lot of power because it was so close to the sweet spot, but when I actually made that hit, it was very, very plush feeling on the paddle and kind of came off dead, meaning there was no rebound or speed from that hit. Especially when I was hitting some resets, if I wasn't careful with how much power I was giving it, it would just completely come off the face slow, and many times just go right into the net because it was just not enough force pushing back into the ball. Even though, yeah, towards the end of life, it was producing way too much power and also did not have that spin that it originally had, that touch that I really liked playing with. It was still a very usable paddle. I would say that it's not as consistent and reliable as it was. Let's say when it started, it was at a 95% reliability, and even after 150 hours, it was at like a 90% reliability. I would say towards the actual end of life for this paddle, the reliability dropped to like 70. And that's when I had to call JOOLA warranty. So my case with JOOLA warranty, it was quite simple actually. You fill out a form on the JOOLA website, you send them your information, and they'll get back to you. In 24 hours, they sent me an email to ask to make a video to show what the issue was. I actually called them to ask, like, how do I show that this thing has an issue? And that's when they told me to press around the edges to catch that crackling sound of a core crush paddle, which I don't know if you can still hear it, but you can kind of see when I press down, it's just mushy on here and a little, you can hear it a little bit here. Yeah, but around the edges, it was just mushy and really crackly at that time. And so they immediately said, okay, yeah, this thing is core crush, we'll get you a new one. And yeah, so I'm just waiting for the new paddle right now. And yeah, the warranty service was actually really good and it was not much trouble at all. Although I did find that the app on the phone is just completely useless. So if you need the JOOLA Infinity app for warranty, no you don't. I had to still send them my receipt and my invoice anyway, where it was already on the app. I don't really know why they make you do that on the app if you're just gonna have to send that information to warranty anyway. So that was the life of my JOOLA Perseus Pro 4. It lasted about 250 hours before I had to actually call JOOLA for warranty on this. It was definitely fun all the way through. Even till now, you could probably get away with playing with this, though it's just not very consistent, so you're gonna have some disappointing shots with it every now and then. But I mean, it was a great paddle. I think that when the new one comes, I'll still be maintaining this paddle just because of how good and reliable it is. All right, thanks for watching, guys. And if your story with the JOOLA Pro 4 is similar, be sure to comment down below how long yours lasted and how your warranty service went. I do want to hear how other people's JOOLA Pro 4s have played and lasted. So please comment down below. Also, if you liked this review type style video, please like and subscribe. We will be doing more content on new paddles. Thanks, guys. Peace.